r/ask Reddit, if you could remove one event from your life, what would it be? It's a tie between losing my dad and losing my sister. No need to be sorry for my loss or to feel sorry for me. I just wish I'd had longer with them. Good for you for that attitude, mate. This was going to be my exact response. Lost my dad when I was an infant, and my sister this July. Death is some bullshit. My wife passing away. Let's just remove that part and have her sitting next to me right now talking about the ham she's going to make for Thanksgiving. I'm sorry. My dad dropping dead in front of me when I was a teen. Holy duck. That's awful. Never pass up a moment to tell your parents or loved ones you love them. Breaking my ankle when I was 8. I was trying to climb my grandma's rose apple tree and shattered my ankle. I'm in my 20s and have had 7 operations on it and ended up ducking my other leg while trying to avoid injury on my shitty ankle, all because I wanted a fruit and grandma told me to wait until morning. My life would have been much easier and less painful if I listened to my gran, and now I just wish she was still here telling that I need to clean my ears and listen more, because whenever I didn't listen to her I ended in stupid situations. Broke my talus bone, the biggest bone in your foot, playing pickup basketball since I wore the wrong shoes that week. Just demolished it and ruined my 22nd summer, but that's when I would lay in the yard and just loved reading On the Road and other classics. Made me want to become a writer. Crossing a road in Melbourne in 1999. Got hit by car and given permanent brain damage. And from that moment my life changed course forever. If it hadn't happened, I would have had a much different, much less painful life. I was working part-time as a gardener, studying IT, preparing to apply for uni to do a course on journalism which I had a good chance of getting into. Was also doing volunteer work with street people, and paneling and presenting a couple of radio shows on a minor AM radio station, and had just done over a year of physical rehabilitation for a bad back. Lots of gym and fitness work, physio, and I was about the fittest I've ever been. Then I crossed the road and everything changed forever. I'm the opposite. I was the driver when an allegedly drunk, drugged up teenager crossed the road at night wearing black clothes in the rain. I didn't even hit the brakes, that's how fast it happened. I stopped and had to run out into the middle of a busy intersection to make sure he wasn't hit by any other cars. He lived. But it sounds like he is going through what you're going through. The images and sounds I have of that night have almost ruined my life. I went through hell with my brain and mind replaying those constantly. I'm finally on the way back to who I once was, but I doubt I'll ever feel whole again. As a young man in Eastern Europe before the Cold War ended, I was sentenced to the farm pit for dealing drugs. It was basically a deep, concrete pit at a hog farm. The criminal stands inside for a few hours, and then the pig's dung is shoveled in with you. I thankfully have a much better life today, but I'll never forget the sickening nausea of the pit. I remember reading that in almost every society that's ever existed, animal feces has been used to punish criminals in some capacity. Western Europe, the USA had the stocks pillory, and though they don't teach this in school, it almost always ended with the criminal smeared head to toe in horse dog shit. Last year, when I went in for surgery to fix a broken leg and something went wrong, I woke up 18 days later with 8B. When I woke up I couldn't see, move, or speak. I can sort of walk now. I can't really see faces, or read well, and I slur my words when I speak, but I'm largely functional for caring for myself. So I would assume your vision is really ducked. How does computer and phone use go? Do you just power zoom in on things, or can you see that stuff better cause it's closer? As far as I know you can change your settings to make your phone read out loud everything on your screen. Saw a video of a blind woman using it. I guess she is using the same tool. Being bitten by a baboon viper on the right ankle. Most extreme pain I've ever been in. I puked and screamed on the way to the hospital. How in the blue hell did you get that bite? Glad you made it through. Agreeing to a deal with my parents. It led to me going to their choice of my college instead of mine. And it led to me having a ton of debt. And it led to me working dead-end jobs instead of becoming a teacher. Funnily, when your life goes south because of the decisions that were forced on you, some parents always make it out as if you were the loser who could not make it work for him and were to blame. It's obviously human nature to avoid taking the blame, but it's a dong move that you can't counter. Reversely, whenever you rebel and it all turns out well for you, they feel an unnatural amount of pride in their upbringing and all the times they were obstacles in your path are just forgotten. My most traumatizing experience was getting spit on, puked on, by a llama at a petting zoo with my first girlfriend. What I thought I knew when I entered the petting zoo: llamas are cute furry animals whose only real defense is to spit. Just wipe it off. No big deal. What I knew when I left the petting zoo: if you really piss them off, llama spit is actually green, smells like putrid rat carcasses boiled in sour milk, and won't wash off no matter how long you spend in the petting zoo bathroom. A llama kicked me in the face once. I was the only person he liked. No one else could get anywhere close to him. Llamas are jerks. I went to a petting zoo when I was about 7 or so and a llama bit me. I socked it as hard as I could. Maybe we both learned a lesson that day. Being buck ragging as a punishment by my parents growing up. Look it up if you don't know what it is. Worst childhood memory by far, despite being close with my family. Then again, the 2 times I received it I had been a pretty big piece of shit. Who knows what I'd be like today if I wasn't punished for it. I just feel the need to point out that there are other ways to teach a child that certain punishments aren't okay and that certain punishments can worsen a child's attitude. If it was bad enough that you want its memory erased from your life, it is likely one of those punishments that are too much. Hard to choose. Some of the worst brought some of the best. I would say my marriage, but it brought me my best friends that helped me after it ended. Also, she got me to volunteer with her to help rehabilitate baby songbirds at the university. Something I never would have thought of doing on my own. I wouldn't give that up even though my life sucks post-divorce. It's not something I often talk about because I still experience shame. I lost my eyesight in my right eye because I was a teenager who thought I knew better and did not wear a paintball mask. It was such a stupid mistake and caused me an endless amount of trauma. However, I am grateful that it taught me in hardest way that impairments are not always visual. Pun. At this point in my life, I have lived longer without vision in that eye than I did with. Oftentimes, it's common for me to be completely unaware that anything is abnormal about myself until I am made to realize that something or someone is trying to grab my attention from the right side, and it becomes a stark reminder of that stupid fateful day. Usually I shrug it off, but sometimes it still stings. So, my answer to this question is that I would have never asked my mom to buy me a paintball gun. Ultimately, I think out of all the events that shaped my being, this one has the least likelihood of having drastic butterfly effect type consequences. Cutting as a teenager. Scars are not worth it. Anytime I was sexually assaulted, it's not just one event, but if I could combine them all and completely remove from memory, it would be that. If you remove the death of a close friend, would that friend be alive? I think yes. My dad taking me to follow my mom who was with another guy, stopped at an underground parking lot and my dad got into an altercation with the guy. I was 10 and crying in the car while my older brother sat there in silence. I can't help to think, why did my dad would put me through that trauma at such a young age? To this day, I still don't know why and don't want to know why. I witnessed a nasty murder. I was in my Jeep with the top down and watched 2 guys argue on the sidewalk. I didn't want to get involved, so I just sat there. One guy pulled out a homemade knife, shank, and plunged it into the other guy's eye. The sound was horrific. I wish I had beeped my horn or something and tried to get them to move along. The guy was later caught and convicted of murder, but I'll never forget the crunching sound when that knife went into his skull. Nightmares for life. Also, my motorcycle accident where I nearly lost my leg 35 years ago. That sucked. The day I had a fight with my grandpa about ethnicity and stuff. One day, IGPT upset about him saying about how I should not do this and that, because it was not ideal for our religion. I became angry and said, well, sorry if I do that. It's my life and you don't get to decide what I should do with it. I don't like this stupid stuff we have to do, so I won't do it. Then I stormed off. I didn't talk to him for like 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, I felt really guilty. I knew he was a highly religious man, I shouldn't have tried to question or demoralize his beliefs by saying what I said. So in feeling of guilt, I tried to get back and apologize to him. He didn't carry a phone so I couldn't call him. So I thought I would apologize to him the next day in his house. Big mistake. Turns out while I was having this mental argument with myself, my grandpa had passed away. I had missed 9 calls from my mother, and when I finally picked up, I found out about this. I was heartbroken. To this day, I believe my rudeness made him heartbroken, which eventually led to his demise. This was 3 years ago. I'm sorry, Grandpa. I shouldn't have been so harsh on you. You were just trying to pass down your beliefs to me. I'm sorry. Dude, you cannot blame yourself for that. It's not your fault. It's absolutely not your fault. That old man has been in fights his whole life. A relative arguing about religion or whatever is not what did that, and you know it. If there is an afterlife, he knows you are sorry and he's sorry too. He loves you and just felt passionately about it, but knows that you're your own person, but knows it doesn't matter now. The last thing he wanted was to hang that around your neck. He wants you to be happy. You owe it to yourself and him to live your best life and learn to let that go. When I was 21, I joined the Marines. Only lasted a month in boot camp. I wasn't meant for military life. Honestly, man, nothing wrong with that. It happens. Not everyone is cut out for the military, and there's nothing wrong with that. At least you figured it out quick and were able to move on. You could have figured it out 6 months into your contract and been stuck for several more years. Only dentist that accepted my family's insurance at the time was rated 2.3/5 stars. My dentist ducked up the anesthetic 4 times, all 4 of which he scraped the duck out of my gums with the needle, slipped on one of them and jabbed my cheek with the needle. The kicker? She didn't even numb the right spot. She starts drilling. Her tool that sprays water is broken. So about 1/3 of the water goes into my mouth, the rest just ducking sprays me. She slipped at one point and skated the drill across another tooth and caught my cheek. She let out an audible shit and went back to working. The dental assistant proceeded to ask the dentist a question about her personal life. They then had a 15-20 minute convo while she just held the spinning drill, hovering over my tongue. I go to a new dentist. Turns out she didn't fill the tooth properly and left a huge gap between the filling and the wall of my tooth, which is why it kept hurting. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.